I'm Scott Railey. I'm the pastor here at Hillabee Campground Church. And I think I've been here right around 4 years now. I would say about a year ago, Garen Nelson came up to me, who's a member of our church, and he was telling me that there were a lot of unmarked graves in the cemetery.
When this church was established, it was the site of camp meetings where pastors would come, and for at least a week, everyone that was participating would come and they would hold church.
And so we walked out in the cemetery, and first thing I noticed, in the center of the cemetery, there were no markers at all. Garen hired a company out of Nashville, and they showed up here with a radar imaging device, kind of like a big lawnmower that you would push. We started to work on the east side of the cemetery, and we worked to the west. In the first row we hit, it was just one unmarked grave after another unmarked grave, and by the end of the day it was almost a spiritual experience. Many times while he would be doing this, he'd say, well, here are two children buried next to each other, and they don't see the coffins or the bodies. What they do, they see a trench line where they dug down in the ground. And some of the children, of course, would have small trench lines. And if it was in the same family and they were children, they'd be buried real close together. Born and died. This is where these are the Reed little girls. They died I think about a year apart, but we only had one marker.
This church is Hillabee Campground Methodist Church, and it was established in 1847. To put that in a little context, the Mexican-American War was just ending, and the war between the states had not yet started. There were less than 30 counties in Alabama, and there were less than 30 states in the United States. The church itself has a cemetery, and the oldest person there is the father of John Bailey. John Bailey was one of the original persons that established the church. The church land was all originally owned by the Indians and later transferred to the United States government. The land was then purchased by settlers for an estimated $1.25 per acre. 5 acres of this land was donated by the Bailey family and the Dunn family. The Dunn family continues to be a part of this congregation.
But the cemetery, there's just something beautiful about this old cemetery. And like when we had this company that came out from Nashville that did the radar imaging, we started over there on the east side, and we worked west, and just look, all these stakes. Every stake is at the head of the grave, because all of these graves will be facing east. And you know, when you step back and you see all the unmarked graves in here, which we intend to buy granite. Rosemary's working on that right now, buying little 6-inch square, 6-inch thick granite with a cross on the granite to put at each headstone. We want to honor these people that are buried in here. And you know, when you think about 171, it's just almost bring tears to your eyes. And it's just you just don't realize kind of what you're experiencing until you get out and walk the cemetery like this. So I think it's not only historical, but it's a spiritual thing. The cemetery kind of stops with this ridge right here. This is where we worked in this direction. But in the woods here, it's hard to see right now. Well, there's one stone right there. There's maybe 150 more graves in the woods There's a headstone right there. And from what I have been told, these were slaves buried here. Even afterwards, other blacks, African Americans were buried here, which I hate to even use that word, because you know why? Jesus says, the Bible says there's only two classes of people, the saved and the unsaved. And we won't be separated by race. I hate to see the racial divide in America, because when we stand before God, color will have nothing to do with it. He'll want to know if you're saved or you're unsaved. So next year we're going to clean this up, get that company back from Nashville, and find the graves in here and mark them. Very kind of a touching thing to go through. So what we're doing here, we want to honor those that were buried, and some of the graves go back to 1840s, and some of the birth dates in the very back of the graveyard are people were born in the 1700s. So it's a very historical old graveyard. We want to preserve its history. We want to honor those that are buried here, and I'm sure the vast majority of them are in a perfect place called heaven. But still, we want to preserve and honor the grave sites, and that's what we're doing right now.